the solar cycle. Concurrently to all of this, Sylvise was dealing with the aftermath of Lucifer's actions. He was abandoned by the Wanderer. He was betrayed by Aoife, the spider bitch, and he left Artio. Wandering the worlds with depression, he gave up on his dedication to legality and custom and adopted chaos and anarchy. The distant ancestors of the elven Celts and Assyrians remained loyal to the Saren. The ancestors of the Baratans developed heretical beliefs. Sylvise prevented the other gods from claiming Sinai, which was the land of the Wanderer. Sylvise, distraught about the end of the Saren, took on the aspect of Neruda and abandoned law. In this form, he married Alexandria. On their wedding night, Alexandria took the son of nature and knowledge, the lord of science and exploration, Neruda, an infinite distance away. They had gone to the son of Persh, which they suspected was a rip in the plains, a portal to the Arcanum. Virgo was a winged, four-legged reptile that was to the Arcanum as the gods were to the Imperia and the Primordials to the Fortusian Everchange. Virgo, unlike her twin, bent towards the direction of order. Virgo followed this sense until he encountered Neruda on his honeymoon. Neruda mistook Virgo for a primordial and attacked. Eventually it became clear that Virgo was acting purely in self-defense, and they respected each other's physical and magical prowess. Neruda took Virgo to the island library of Alexandria, goddess of knowledge, and Virgo became an initiate in the rites of godhood. Cyprus, the primordial of terror, had then killed the god of agriculture, Pilar, and the god sent Virgo to destroy the primordial as part of its final rites of godhood. Cyprus stood on top of his steed and challenged Virgo to a fight, casting him as a traitor to the Arcanum. Virgo charged at him, but then Cyprus pulled out his double battle axe and slashed Virgo, cutting him in 3 parts, instantly killing them. Cyprus was said to have let out a huge laugh. The right part fell into a platinum mine, the middle into a mass of dwarven gems, headed to Giants' fealty, and the left part crashed into a rainbow, landing in a field of flowers. Distraught by this end of his close friend, Neruda poured all of his energies and powers into resurrecting these parts. The left part arose as Capricorn, the middle as Gemini, and the right as Sagittarius. These 3 arose and destroyed Cyprus, completing the rite. They ascended into godhood. The 3 then mated in a furious orgy. From Capricorn came the chromatic dragon eggs, from Gemini came the crystal dragon eggs, and from Sagittarius came the metallic dragon eggs. This transformation cost Neruda his life, and Sylvise took up a new aspect, Saura. Saura would marry Bastet of the Copts. For their honeymoon, he created the race of cat people, placing them in Kumat. If that god would ever become Neruda once more, the link would be reestablished, and he would surely die. One particular Ma'al, Oralis, had a very particular way he would kill mortals. It was so traumatic that it would result in the death of others. It was so effective that it still kills to this day. This demon primordial would kidnap mortals and hook their veins to IV needles, replacing their blood with that of blood cursed by the Black Dungeons, causing this creature to become undead. He imparted upon them a bit of himself, his powers, persuasion and hypnosis, his evil, his limitations. He constructed a stone mask that, when bled on, shoots needles through his subject's head, giving them super strength, causing them to grow fangs, and rewiring their physiology so that they could, and must, drink blood to replenish their own. He actually altered their very souls so that they had to subsist off of the blood of living mortals, Nephilim and Empyreans. Dead mortals extracted blood, animals, and giants, while they could live off of it for a time, would cause horrible side effects such as brain damage, paralysis, and severe weakness. He named this new creature Vampire, and allowed it to spread its vampirism in weak forms to other mortals. Footnote: extracted blood does, in large quantities, cause extreme harm to the health of a vampire, but in small quantities it can give a sort of pleasant intoxication, similar to alcohol. Some will drink extracted blood simply for pleasure, as they like the taste and the feeling of being intoxicated. They have all varied measures to deal with this dead blood, ranging from something like that of a cheap beer to a fine wine, a dirty vodka to an expensive whiskey. A vampire must drink blood from a mortal to really have any quality of undeath. They must completely exsanguinate mortals from time to time. However, even when they don't intend to, It is hard for them to stop once they start. End footnote. He had originally experimented with animals, and he destroyed mortal essences. Many whom he trained could gain certain powers, turning into a bat or a swarm. Elazar, the evil god of disease, creator of pigeons and rats, corrupted Phaeon of Tartarus, rose to prominence and notoriety during the War in Heaven by imitating the first wave of primordials. The thought was, the first wave of primordials created the materium, and thus it would be really funny to use the untouched materium against the new wave. Alien life, from the lizardmen to the tall bugs, was carefully studied and catalogued by the Nephilim. So Elazar mastered the field of alienology and introduced his creations to the fight. These were magically and divinely imbued diseases, viruses, and bacteria, and then he invented lice, fleas, wasps, and others. No longer did insect mean alien and blasphemous, for while the large ones were still remnants of the untouched materium, the smaller insects became a part of nature, the god's terraforming of the materium. His philosophy infected heaven. For instance, Godin became infested with spiders. Often, it is said that either Artio or the Locopelas created the other smaller insects, such as bees, in order to bring balance back to nature. Once, Elazar sent out one of his archangels, sometimes called Vlad, other times Dracula. Rumor said that Elazar had created him in contemplation of his stay with Capricorn. This angel went to Aurealis' domain to gather information for a future attack. That is when Aurealis saw him and turned him into a vampire. Unfortunately for Aurealis, this boosted Dracula's power, and he killed Aurealis shortly after that, driving a stake through his heart, limbs, and belly, leaving him in his mountain. Thus, he became known as Vlad the Impaler. Shortly thereafter, Dracula rose to be one of Elazar's top archangels. He soon destroyed Aurealis' laboratory, spread his disease, and demanded the death of every vampire who could not trace their lineage back to him, which became known as the Nosferatu. Baphomet, a corrupted Phaeon, who dwells in the 54th layer of the abyss, Jaruth, who takes the form of a winged minotaur, was stationed in what became known as the Bloodlands. Baphomet's closest Nephilim in this land formed an order which swore utmost devotion and abstinence. One of these Nephilim went exploring, looking for trolls and ogres to do battle with. She found many and fought valiantly, but became fatigued. She would die if she did not make it back to camp soon. Absent-mindedly cursing herself for traveling so far, she accidentally awoke a dire jaguar. All she had was speed, and she ran and ran and ran while the jaguar chased and chased and chased, until she tripped on the vines of the jungle, landing in thorns, bleeding on the ground. From this sacrifice arose a loud, gargantuan head, which scared off the jaguar. Quote, "Fear me, for I am Hutzliopochtli, god of maize. Take this gift and avenge me." End quote. It was the great god Pilar, for even dead gods might still communicate their wishes. With that, he spat on the hand of the Nephilim, impregnating her. The demon god Baphomet became enraged when he discovered one of his Nephilim was pregnant, disregarding this tale and thinking it mere cover for sex with mortals. He banished her, and in her exile she gave birth to the twin gods Kinish Awa, who nursed his mother as she birthed his sister, Makilla. Their mother died shortly after Makilla was born. The twins moved to the far-off places of the Bloodlands, far from Baphomet's reach. Upon growing to maturity, the twins went to Baphomet's unholy camp. They offered their services, fighting in the War of Heaven, rising from the ranks. They then lured Baphomet to an altar and chained him down, spilling his blood. They revealed where they were and who they were, and the blood sacrifice of Baphomet, of course, as he was a god, he lived afterwards, was enough to resurrect Pilar, who once more became a god. The first thing Pilar did was threaten to go to war with Elazar if he did not allow him to impose limitations on the vampires, which were a truly perfect and evil being. Footnote. Of course, not all vampires are evil. It is up to them to juggle their requirements to eat mortal blood with their desire to be good. But of course, many mortals eat meat and prepare it in a very cruel way. End footnote. So Elazar accepted, and Pilar cursed Dracula and his spawn to not enter into homes uninvited, to not cross running waters, and to die by the light of his sons. Dracula rebelled, seeing this as a great betrayal committed by Elazar. During this rebellion, Elazar lost many of his holdings. Thus, Elazar cursed Dracula to constantly reincarnate as a mortal. Due to his powerful and specific spirit, all vampires are attracted to turn him. And 10 years into his vampirism, he recalls all of his old knowledge and becomes the master once more. Then, Pilar constructed a stone out of gems found in the fairy realm, refined them on his estate, and blessed them in the 3 sons of Cristo, Beetlejuice the Red, Centauri the Yellow, and Sirius the Blue. He presented these red stones of Aja, the bright gems, as gifts to the Syrinx, so that the Syrinx would receive credit for a powerful tool against vampires. Then, he created a crop that would ward off and harm vampires. Garlic. In order to distract Zeus so that he might steal Apollo's sheep, Kunirama made Zeus drunk on soma and alcohol, sending him in the direction of Mechilla, and Zeus raped her. From this arose a child, raised by his uncle and mother, and especially his grandfather Pilar, who later joined the Citylin as Kukulkan and the Olympians as Apollo Smintheus, and the Vanner as Freyr. Zeus demanded Kunirama to repay Apollo, and so Kunirama gave Zeus the world's first guitar. Apollo went to play this beautiful instrument, but he found it to be out of tune no matter what he did. He had gone to his sister Hecate, the daughter of Zeus and Virgo, and she had found that the thing was perpetually and eternally out of tune. Zeus was now furious with Kunirama. Anas ruled that Kunirama did not disrespect Apollo at this time, but Zeus, as Kunirama ignored what Zeus commanded. Knowing Zeus might destroy him, Kunirama promised him the souls of the orcs of what is now called Hellas. Zeus agreed, but now Kunirama had to go to Haruk Bator and request the souls. During his oration, Thrunch, lord of kobolds and son of Haruk Bator and Capricorn, scarred Kunirama's face while laughing at his insolence. But Kunirama told Haruk Bator that in the 4th Age, the gnomes would have an undue and untoward influence over the planet. He offered to give the orcs a special place in this gnomish kingdom, and to build a cathedral in honor of Haruk Bator with his own hands. Haruk Bator agreed, but before Kunirama left, he collapsed the sky on Thrunch. Kinishawa and Mechilla performed a ritual and unleashed a new form of themselves. Kinishawa took on the form of Ometekutli, also called Tonakatekutli, while Mechilla took on the form of Omekihuatl, also called Tonakakihuatl. Together, these forms formed the Ometotl. In order to battle against the primordial Kipikatli, who is also called Imix, Ometotl spawned the Tetzkatlipokas. This is the collective designation of 4 aspects, taken on by 4 gods. Shippi-Totek, the red Tetzkatlipoka, was taken on by Mars. He flayed himself just as maize must lose its husk. He took on the domains of agriculture, vegetation, the east, spring, goldsmiths, silversmiths, liberation, deadly warfare, the seasons, and the earth. Mars answered the call to don on this aspect as Mars is fascinated by the connection between the harvest and warfare. Kukulkan took on the aspect of Quetzalcoatl, the white Tetzkatlipoka. Huitzilopochtli, who is Pilar, reimagined himself as the blue Tetzkatlipoka, a scion of Ometeotl rather than their father. Finally, there is the black Tetzkatlipoka, simply called Tetzkatlipoka. He was taken on by Kunirama, the trickster. The Tetzkatlipokas gathered quite the following of Nephilim, and raised one of them, Tlaloc, to godhood. They also created Anahita's aspect of Kalkikliku, who is the sister wife of Tlaloc. The Tetzkatlipokas decided that for each age there must be a Tonatia, a religious office within the Citylin pantheon. In the 1st Age, the black Tetzkatlipoka, simply called Tetzkatlipoka, aspect of Kunirama, was chosen to be the Tonatia. One day, while drunk, Tetzkatlipoka had a really funny idea. He came to the Citylin with the full might of the first Tonatia, and yet, despite donning this awesome power, he appeared merely as a headless axeman, disguised in anonymity, pretending to be the very concept of the Tonatia, which the particular Tonatia of the ages simply embodied. He demanded that both Cittilan worshippers and elves in general must placate the gods with the sacrifice of mortals. Upon waking up, he had no memory of this directive, but many cultures and religious groups fear for the world if the blood stops flowing.